Hey, friends, a pleasant good evening to you. Welcome to Lions Live here on a Thursday, October the 20th. Wow. I'm speechless, gentlemen. I never would have thought that things have gone the way it did. We don't have a lot to say. And H, I know you have some things you want to get off your chest. So go ahead and let's hear it.
I am reluctantly going to speak. I know that the last time when the prediction came out and you, Skip, you must stand accused, you predicted the loss. And I fell instantly silent. Well, I'm gravely disappointed in you, Skip, because they needed every bit of positive energy, and you failed in that regard. And I'm disappointed, and I must pause till my breath, my speech, my analysis, and all of those things in the shows before comes back to me. So please allow this, because Skip, I fault you. I fault you for the loss, because they needed every ounce of positive energy. And if anybody's listening, if anyone in the show, you must pull. They need every bit of positive energy going forward with the games ahead. And that's just my sincere feeling. You know, I've talked about positivity. You know, I've talked about things like you're never as bad as you think you are when you lose. And something my dad used to say, we're only as strong as our weakest. And Skip, you ain't giving the positive energy. I'm disappointed. I'm going silent again. Aside from that, I'm just going to celebrate a birthday tomorrow. My brother's, Lance, happy birthday. A shout out to him. And gentlemen, take it away, because they will pick themselves up. And Skip, get on the right side of the energy. That's all I got to say, gentlemen. I'm sorry I got to pause till my heart, my mind comes back to me. Thank you for having me, but I must go silent again.
Mm-hmm. Well, and H, while we have you on there, I just have a question. See, this is the difference between our program and these other podcasts and some of the preposterous things that people have been saying on these podcasts. They make no sense, and everybody's an expert because they see what they see on a computer and they come to some conclusion. People have no feeling for the game. I only see maybe two podcasts that I find very helpful, you know, and they all have to give it to them. They're all trying different things. But here's my question, though, H. I again, it was the first year where I got to know you as a senior. What do you do after a big loss like this? I mean, I remember going to dressing for my first college game ever. I had my number. I never thought I would get in the locker hanging, number 76. We're about to play Nebraska in the first annual, and now they don't have the game anymore. The first annual kickoff classic, in which we lost 44-6 to Nebraska. It was a shellacking. What was it that you went through as a player? First of all, after a loss like that, and after a loss like Penn State had, can you remember what was going through your mind after we lost a game like that? And what do you tell Penn State after losing the game that they lost, 41-17?
We were shocked. We were taken completely off guard. We were. I mean, it was a shocker.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we lost the next few after that even.
We did. We lost the last.
Paterno
we went 0-3.
Called us into the room. Go ahead. Say again.
I said we ended up going 0-3. Yep.
Yes. Called the seniors. A lot of the guys who contributed on that national championship run called us into the room. I've said it before, but I don't mind repeating it because you have to know that. And said, hey, jobs are on the line. You guys don't turn this around and get it together. Jobs are on the line. You will find yourself not starting. You will find yourself on the bench. And he was very blunt, very to the point. It was a short, poignant meeting, just called the seniors into the room And of course, the rest is history. We turned it around from there. So that could be what's needed. Okay, I say from this this live show that the energy needs to change. But no, those players, they got to get it together. They got to get it together. They got to line up. And remember earlier in the show, I talked about how important it was to have your mind in the right place. You got to go out there expecting and thinking that you are going to win. And I was concerned about that. I was concerned about, I don't want to call it the intimidation factor. I'm going to call it the doubt factor. You know, time for doubt. I think Joe Paterno used to talk about pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. You know, that kind of thing is what has to happen. That's what you got to tell yourself. You got to erase that doubt. And it may take the kind of kick in the pants that Joe Paterno gave us after when he called the seniors in the room and said, last year is gone. You can't live off that. That last year thing is behind us. You're going forward, and some of you may find yourselves not starting, not playing.
And
a point like that.
Right. So, I think we were all, and I don't want to say all of us, but I think for the most part, though, I think we can say many of us were built for that type of thing. We were shocked, like I said, because you got to remember, we're coming off a national championship game that we've won, and we're opening things up, and we're number 5. I think Playboy had us at 4. You know, we were top 7 all over. But can this generation of people, can they take that type of tongue lashing from Coach Frank?
I can't take this. I dwell on this. I'm in the background. I have to pause. I have to go silent because my mind comes right around to Skip predicting of the loss. And that's what I have to get off. I have to get over right now. So pardon me, gentlemen. I have to beg off. I have to go silent like I did when he made the prediction. Because it came true, I blame him. Let me go on the record. I blame him for the loss. You're not supposed to point fingers. We're not supposed to point fingers, but I am not on the field. I am now a spectator, and I'm here on a live show. So I feel like I can speak my feelings. I want to be heard. I blame you.
Okay. Well, then Skip, I'll pass. It sounds like I never saw H punt until now. He punted to you high and deep. So Skip, I mean, this generation of folks, I mean, everybody's sensitive. We all were sensitive. People quit, you know, before we won the national championship. People left camp. A whole lot of weird things happened, but we were able to pull it together. I mean, what would you tell these young, and not from your perspective, but these 18 to now 24-year-old and some maybe even 25-year-old young men, what do you tell them these days after a loss like that? Does the Joe philosophy come out, as H mentioned? You're never here's the thing, it says it's never as good as you are when you think you win, but can it get any worse than a loss? Let me just run this down real quick because I know we're running 418 yards. Have we ever given up 418 yards rushing in any game?
Buddy, I don't know. And I know this is he's coming in here this year, and I love him and I appreciate him and I support him in every way possible as a human being and as a teammate. And I accept the accusation, and I'm guilty as charged. But I was not hoping negativity. I believe my text during the game to everybody were showing that I wanted to see us turn things around, which I thought we would, and I hope. I get it.
But Skip, what do you say? What is? I don't know if you've heard some of the different things that people were focusing on. This week was a very bad week for podcasts. I thought.
Yeah. Here's what. Let's go back to your questions. Okay. I think as a coach and this generation, you're right. This generation, I personally believe is, I hate to say it, they're sissies. They can't take it. They don't know what it is to take a tongue lashing And well, we called it, you know what, chewing. When we were in the military, it was you don't know what it is to get dressed down and chewed up and stand there and take it like a man. And these guys don't, they've not been, they're not toughened up. No, but these kids have had smoke blown up in the wrong places. They're most of their lives. They've been
I,
told, they've been said they're great. They said they're wonderful. They are just absolutely the best thing since sliced bread. And all of a sudden, adversity comes, and I don't think they know how to handle it. And unfortunately, these coaches, no, we've talked. I've talked to different coaches and the different coaches. These guys, you can't. They I feel bad to be. I wouldn't want to be a coach today because
I get all that. We
it's
have,
not good.
so
It's not
we
good.
have, yeah, we have. Here's the thing. And you say, now, Skip, you know I love you, buddy. Get off the fence. I'll tell you. When it's my turn, I'll tell you what I think we need to tell them. But knowing what you know now about the climate of today, and I don't use the word that you use. I don't use it anymore. There are too many connotations with that. Says research and a lot of things.
Okay.
But anyhow, what is it that you tell them, like, if you are involved and everybody else is different? The coaches obviously have to be different than they used to be. What is it that we tell them? Where do we start at? I mean, as you saw in some of our notes that we put, I say burn the video and start over and find out. And I think this is what H is saying. We start talking about belief. What do you guys believe in? What is it that you believe in? Who do you think you are as a team? At what point, is giving up always an option? Because that's not why I'm here. I'm not here to coach anybody that's going to give up or come close to the word give up. In fact, I had heard Ray Isom told me a story, H, about, I think you might have been with the Jets then, about how Ray Perkins went off on Ronnie Heller, coaching him with the Bucks, and they were losing at halftime, and he said, "Hey, don't give up." And he said, "Ronnie Heller, I'm going to break your neck. I'm going to give up. What are you talking about?" And he goes, "Coach, I just was saying don't give up." He said, "I don't ever want to hear anybody say that again." All he was saying but you almost got to have a background in social sciences to coach these young men. What we didn't even work. And Joe, you got to remember, Joe's an English professor. That's who he was. He wasn't a psychologist. He wasn't a sociologist, but the man was an English professor. So what is it that you say? Where did he get this toughness from? And how was he able to pass it on? I didn't realize until later, H, that when he yelled at me, that he actually cared. I thought when he yelled at me, I was supposed to be afraid. Everybody said, "You're not supposed to be afraid. You're supposed to take notice. Don't be afraid." They said, because if he knows you're afraid, it just seemed like we got to the point, even when we were in that game and it was 16-14, that we still had to win it at halftime. Because to me, the way I saw it was, and I know we had a difference of opinion, Skip, I thought we had taken Michigan's best punch. And I said, if we can take their best punch, and H, we've been talking all season about getting a defensive score. Getting a defensive score, I just knew the game turned around. I just knew at some point we'd be able to run the ball, But then you start to hear the opinions all over. Mostly everybody said, hey, our offensive line wasn't that good. Our defensive line wasn't that good. And then you got these instructional videos on how to play gaps, which, to tell you the truth, was the most probably helpful. But what is it that you're able to tell these guys when in these mediocre, if some are mediocre, but what in the world could you be doing that bad, H, where you give up 418 yards rushing and two guys have 44 carries and they don't have to pass. And the guy who's the quarterback doesn't have a touchdown pass and he goes 17 for 24 and then Michigan never punted. Something had to have gone wrong in that halftime locker room for them to come out, them to go all the way down the field and get a field goal, which means they have momentum, and then fall apart. What happened? From everybody's perspective, did we get too cute? or did we just get our butts kicked, or was it both?
Oh man. Hey, big dude, I go back to what you're saying, and I'm looking. I'm now looking at the numbers again.
Mm-hmm.
Two words I come up with. One is manhandled. The other you already mentioned, Sterlakin. And I don't know if it happened at halftime. I thought, like you said, the momentum was going in the right direction. I mean, Michigan's the only team that turned over the football, and we got a defensive score from it. I'm thinking, wow, okay, this is going to be like it. I predicted, like we're going to pull out. Maybe it's going to be like a 3-point game. I figured that, but what happened? I don't know what I think. What I could see differently on the defensive side of the ball is them spying the quarterback, and when they
Mm-hmm.
started spying him like they did,
Yep.
he didn't know what to do. He was frozen.
Right. You're
And
right.
I think that's, a guy that's been playing 5-6 years at this level. That shouldn't be happening. And I think Coach Franklin saw it. I think he pulled him out, and that didn't work either. Because again,
So what you're saying is you don't believe he was hurt. Coach Franklin answered, said,
no,
"Why did you take him out?"
yeah, I think he said, "Hey,
He said Sean was hurt.
well, I'm sure he wasn't mentally and emotionally, okay,
Sure.
because we've seen him get hit harder and keep playing, okay."
Yeah.
So I'm not buying it, okay. I think Coach was just like desperate, trying to find something that could work, and it just wasn't happening.
No.
And I think we just got beat. We were beat, and I think
Mm-hmm.
what Coach has to do is has to sit down and have a heart to heart and say, "Look, I love all of you. I care about you." And I said, "But this is a defining moment with our program. If you are a quitter and you are not committed to this program, I just want you to leave right now. Get up out of your seat. I'm not going to think any less of you. I will respect you more if you
Right.
get up and walk out right now
There you go.
instead of being afraid to
Right.
be the person who doesn't have the guts to do it. Because if you don't
Right.
want to be here, I don't want you here." That's what you have to tell these guys. I said, "I'm committed to you and I'm committed to excellence in this program. If that you are not, then I don't want you here. You get up and leave now."
Mm-hmm.
That's what you tell these guys. And you have to light a fire in them. And I think I'm trying to think of the ways you can say it and it's not going to be too harsh.
Yeah. Well, and that's the tough part about it. But I think at some point somebody's got to learn, because I've had all kind of different people. No one I call only one person, Arthur A. Davis Sr. I only call my actual father, but I had two other kind of like Italian ones. I would say Joe was, I don't know if he was a father. Joe was more between, if there's ever between an uncle and a father for me. But when it came down to my professional life is where he really stuck up for me. When it was close, it was between all these other people on the job. He ends up forgetting to send a letter of recommendation. I'm getting ready to be considered for this job, which late. And you know what? He's banging on the desk. They want to know where the daggone letter is. And Craig Service calls me. I don't know if y'all remember Craig Service.
Yeah, I saw him the other week. Yeah.
Yeah. Craig said, you know what, Steph? He banged on the desk, but guess what he was banging on? What? Your letter. He didn't send it.
Oh.
He didn't send it. So when we start to take a look at it, and that's what I say, I agree with all these other things that are going on. But and it looks like H has got to go.
Yep. He's
we're
traveling. He's traveling.
Yeah. So
I'm thankful we could join the study date. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's what we're able to do, Skip. And I think I think saying what you said, I think is real. I think people have to be committed. And if people have to know, I think even coming in, because this is the weekend, from what I understand, with all the different podcasts I saw, and I guess I didn't miss it, is that this is the big weekend for recruitment. And Franklin made a statement and said, listen, this is not the weekend to bring your buddies. This is the first good move I think he's making, that you can't have buddies hanging all over you in the sideline. When you're coming on a recruiting visit and you're in high school, it is business. I mean, you're going to have some fun and do some other fun things and do some things that people don't talk about out loud. But, and of course, it was just fortunate for me that David Clark was my host, and actually Gene Lyons was there. And I want to tell you that story later too. A teammate of mine that passed away in 1985. in the spring in a car accident with another player, Chris James, good friends of ours. But I think you're right, Skip. I think what we got to ask ourselves is what is college football today? Because I think that if we were able to say all the things like you just said, there wouldn't be a transfer portal. NIL, that was coming. But we started to take a look at how Michigan, like you said, we got our butts kicked. You know what Joe said one time? We lost to Alabama 6-0, but we might as well have lost 60-0 because you know what he said? You look like a bunch of whipped puppies. That's what you are. That was 1984. You look like a bunch of whipped puppies. I said to myself, we go down to Tuscaloosa, and I don't know what is Brian Denny Stadium. That's right. We go down to there, and we lose 6-0. We're in the game. It's a hard-hitting game.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough when you're out.
Alabama didn't score a touch. They did not score a touchdown. And 84 was not one of our better defenses. They were solid, but I don't know, like I said, and looking at this and looking at all the time we have, Skip, the question is, and what did you think about McCarthy? Is McCarthy that good, or is he that he just didn't have to do anything?
I don't get it. I don't know. I'm at a loss, man. I am at a loss entirely for this. It's something everybody should be concerned about.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, coach, everybody needs to be seriously concerned because I chimed in and gave a comment, which I don't often too much, but I saw, like you saw this negativity and stuff,
right?
And people bring up valid points, and my comment was, I said, I know coach is doing as best as he can. And I know that, are we getting the best recruits as we can? Are they?
And that comes up on all the podcasts.
Yeah. And are they performing as best they can? I know coach is doing the best he can. I understand with the amount of money and things are involved with coaching today that the expectations are very high and they should be with this game. It's serious money. It is now serious business. This is not what it was 30, 40 years ago when we were there.
Amen.
So that being said, hey man, I can imagine the pressure he and everybody else is feeling.
Right.
Sure.
And I don't think that's just, and that's what we have to, and again, this is what has been said on the Big Ten Network. The question's going to be is, are the universities, are they really going to roll with this? Because if they really are going to roll with it, then you may have to change your commercial. Over 400,000 people go pro every year in something else. Well, that doesn't make a person that's coming in too good, that you want to also not only get the best for yourself in a program, you want to get your go in a program. But if you're in a transfer portal, there's no way that you can really do something that's for yourself and the team and the program and the history and the get-togethers that we have, Skip. They won't be the same. No, you won't have to worry. They won't be.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Our reunions are much different because we really are a family. And it wasn't just while we were there. It's grown over the years since that time. We all grew up. We became men, and we grew as individuals. People. We realized that, hey, during that time we were together when we were younger. We all said and did some stupid things that we, could laugh about, joke about, cry about. but there's a unity that's there that none of these teams are going to ever have.
Right.
It's impossible with the transfer portal the way it is. It's kind of gone because guys will come and go. It's a revolving door. And you can also say the same with coaching and coaches. I get it, but I think if the schools want to try to rein this in and bring it all back, they just have to say we're not paying it. We're not paying the money. You want to go get that money? Go to the NFL. All right, we are not going to pay this type of money for coaching. But I think then they could be putting the money back in a lot of different things in other ways that they should, because education is supposed to be about education, but it's not really. It's all about money. It's all.
Right, right. And I think you just nailed it, because everybody's putting it on NCAA sports and football. It's not. It's about education. I agree 110, and we don't agree. We have great conversations, but that's how we learn from each other. But I think where you and I walk hand in hand and stride for stride is what education means. And what is it worth? Education is it's infinity. So I think again, when you start talking about Howard Griffith from the Big Ten Network, I think what he talked about was, you want everything to happen at Wisconsin, but you don't have a single field other than your game field that has a strip of 100-yard grass. When he brought that up, what is it that you can do? Or Trev Albert, who's the AD of Nebraska, says, hey, and they said, what are you going to do? Why don't you come up with a coach now? He said, we're going to take our time and find a coach. He said, everybody knows Mickey Joseph. I almost said Mickey Howard. Mickey Howard's a singer. It's a lady. Okay. Mikki or KKI, I'm sorry. But anyhow, what he said was very interesting though, Skip. He said Nebraska didn't have to worry about getting an outstanding coach because fortunately they have the resources. He said that after a coach was fired.
Wow. Well,
I saw it with my own eyes and heard it with my own ears. You have the resources? That still isn't going to get you a national championship. It's only the beginning. What kind of feeling do these coaches and these other people how much are they going to bring to the program? Because there are people who couldn't stand their position coach and let me tell you something. Let me tell you how, and I had to forgive Joe. Joe said to me, and Joe said what was on his mind. We were at the senior banquet, and he said, Stephen Davis, great all-around person. We haven't had, basically, in challenging other people, not too many people like Bob White. He said, like he said to Bob White, as a player, he's one of the best we've ever had. As a person, we've had no better. Wow. I was like, wow. That's how heavy the competition was. And Bob White ends up working at Penn State for his career and the rest of his life. With me, I just wanted to get away, but I ended up staying, because I realized I want to find out if he really believes I'm all these other people. He said, good person, not the greatest football player. Now, what does that mean? Not the greatest. Do I stink? Did I let him down in a big game? Was I not as good as he thought? I had to be able to take that, Skip, at my senior banquet.
Wow.
I had to be able to take it. But I'm so glad he said it. And it's not about that I agree with him. What were you going to say? I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say, it's kind of like, me taking what H said. I think, you have to put it in a perspective. And H gives me more credit than what to do, because I'm not the sovereign king of the universe, and I do not decree what will happen in a game, no matter what I think who's going to win. Game. I know that's the fun part about what we do, and I would say the same to encourage you the same way. I mean, we sometimes what people say can weigh heavy on our hearts, and words can hurt, and they do harm. And they can have and in fact, we know, you and I as believers know that there's words that will last forever and that are there forever and can never be changed. And but it's sometimes hard. Words are hard, and I think back to what has to happen with this team. There's going to have to be some hard words.
No, it's true.
And I think they have to be.
That was my point, Skip. That was what I was trying to say.
Yeah. They have to be creative.
I'm glad he told me, because I had to get ready of all the other harsh stuff that people said in life. That is the one thing I said to myself too. You already had two brothers that played in the league, two brothers that had their degrees, you know what I mean? And two brothers, good folks, award-winning, and a sister, like I said, it was 5 for 5 in our family. We all went to school and we were all low income. And we all, one of the things we had to deal with, and again, this has to do with my studies, sense of belonging. When you start to take a look at it, I got everything else I needed that other people didn't have going to Penn State, being an African-American male. And I wasn't from the inner city, so to speak, but surrounded by it. And when you go up there, you wonder, where do you fit? Where do you belong? Now, being able to yell at a player is something that is part of football. They don't get yelled at in high school. The difference was I got yelled at in high school.
Yeah.
You probably got yelled at in
yeah.
high school.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. That's something you get from like when you first start playing. It's like with the military. They are trying to break you down to build you up.
That's right. They want to make a man.
That does not happen. That is, unfortunately, that has become taboo in our society. And these kids have been coddled and caressed and wooed for so long and so many years. You see these kids have meltdowns.
No, that's true. And let me tell you something. Mental health is a big part of different things. And that doesn't mean anybody, when we said, that's why I didn't really say anything about it. There's some people that have some real big issues in terms of taking criticism. Some people haven't lost their jobs. So you know what they do? They quit. They're not going to be on a job for 30 years. I watched one of those videos about the generation we're in. I didn't lost X, Y. I don't know which one it is now, but I guess it's Y. But one of the things the guy said is when he graduates from college, he knows he's not going to stay at one place for a long time. He gave a story that his dad was on a job at 35 years and they still jammed him. They still treated him badly.
Yes, that can happen. My dad's similar. He spent 35 years in a job, nearly lost his life. In fact, if what would have happened to him today would happen to him probably 50 years ago, he would have owned the company for almost being killed in a job. But
oh my goodness,
people did not see. He worked for an electric company. He was electrocuted because of gross negligence by the company. Burnt holes through his body. Survived it, and he just wanted to keep his job. And he wanted to retire. And that sense of pride and belonging and loyalty. Unfortunately, the companies aren't like that anymore.
Right.
Businesses aren't run that way anymore.
Right.
We're not like that anymore.
Schools, colleges, universities.
Nobody's like that. There's that type of commitment, which I talked about, that people need to make. Has to be inbred to these kids coming back. And I couldn't help it. It popped in my mind. I can't remember the movie, but this one kid's dad said, put on all your football equipment, go out in the backyard. I'm going to get out my golf clubs. I'm going to start hitting golf. And he started hitting golf balls at him. They're trying to toughen him up. I can't remember the movie. I can't remember the movie, but it was funny as anything. He put him out there. He hit golf balls off at him, to toughen him up.
Send that to me when you get a chance. But listen, it sounds like a lot's going on.
Okay. Yeah, we have a busy week. Yeah. We'll go ahead and get
this. So we start to look at Penn State really quick, and then we can take a look at maybe some the Minnesota stuff, and then picks.
Well, hey, let me say this real quick. I'll try to get through some of this real quick. Minnesota last week lost.
24-16, Illinois.
They're hungry to come back and make a statement as well.
Right.
They lost. Got us. They're going to make a statement. This is going to be a hard fought out game. Plain and simple. Minnesota's season's starting to be on the line. So is Penn State's.
And Ibram, their running back Ibram is hurt. I have that on here as well. Number 24, Ibram, who's probably certainly one of the best backs in the country in the last couple of years. That is wasn't worthy of a Heisman. Certainly, I would have said the best back in the Big Ten last year for sure.
Turning point for both teams.
Definitely a turning point. He had 14 carries for 187 yards. I say we still stick with the running game because we got to figure it out. That's how we're going to toughen up. If we're going to toughen up anything, the offensive linemen are going to have to go out there, and I think H brings up a salient point. They have to go out there expecting to do well, and they can't I don't know if you remember, we used to come out by ourselves, Skip. Danny Morgan made these T-shirts up for us, and they said United Line Workers, and everybody's like, what are you guys, a union? And Paterno used to go, moo, 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 look at the fat guys, moo, look at the fat guy. Yeah, and he knew it bothered us. I'm like, what's this guy talking about? Moo, moo, moo. I was like, wow. But he understood the pride that we took. I want to see how much pride there is. I mean, look, Skip, the worst part of it, and here's the thing about the game, we start talking about statistics don't mean everything. And I think we talked about this. They only gave up one sack. Now, the offensive line, that doesn't mean they had a good game, but through all that, through getting manhandled, only to give up one sack, and even get the yards that we got. I mean, the two backs now, 12 carries and 35 yards on 12 carries for both backs. And if it wasn't for a 63-yard run by Clifford, a 62-yard run, 62, 63, I don't know how those things would have come out, and then Clifford is 7 for 20, not accurate, but I still don't think Aller is the answer. Everybody thinks I'm crazy, and everybody on all the podcasts said, here's what makes me laugh. They said, if he does something better than someone else, don't you put him in? You got to be able to guide the team, and yeah, he should be better, but listen, Clifford is not the only 24-year-old. If you watch enough football, there's a number of 24-year-olds that, guess what, didn't really have a full football season in a couple of years, So I would say he's still a year and a half behind. But my thing is, just switching quarterbacks isn't what's going to happen with Penn State. We get a 48-yard pick six from Curtis Jacobs, but then Jacobs gets manhandled by the guard. The whole game he's getting manhandled, and what do you do? And then we have no turn. But after all that, as much as we got manhandled on offense, we had no turnover. So, but this is the only thing that challenges Joe's statement. Are you as bad as you are when you lose? I say we were just about as bad as we were when we've lost. Other than we took care of the football, and other than we only punted, I think, 3 times, 43 yards a punt, and a punt inside the 20. And and we got a field goal, and we're fine. But I'd say, and I know we got to get out of here soon, but burn the video, Skip. We talked about Minnesota, burn the video. Do you want to start off picking the Minnesota and Penn State game first? Or do you want to, we'll wait.
Well, before we head to do that, I want to touch last week because there is just a lot going on in college football. And I just have to say that this has been a year that has been extremely difficult with our picks. We have been getting, we've never picked worse. In a decade of this, we have never had this bad a time trying to make predictions.
But I think, hey, again, as a person who is working on something academic, that has been a reoccurring theme, Skip, on all the networks and on all the podcasts. They are doing terrible.
Yeah, I see that. I see that. Not just in college football, it's NFL too.
I think that's what's ended up happening. I mean, I think that people are overthinking it. I think that's one of the reasons what they're doing as well. We can't look at the label anymore, just like I have in the background. You see Penn State going against Pitt. That game used to mean something. And, there I am. They get any, I'm pulling it. And that's 1985. I'm pancaking the guy. But you never knew we were going to win. We won 31-0. So we won 31-0, but we were having a much better year. So for the most part, you could pick Penn State. The next year, where we were supposed to have the better athletes, we had better athletes than Syracuse, the 87 year. We had better athletes than almost everybody on the field. You had Michael Timpson. You had Mike Alexander. You had Todd Young. You had Stan Clayton. You had all these other folks that are on there, the Duffy twins. You had Kirkendall, Al Pola, all these guys that are all just outstanding, and Trey, and again, Scott Dabby had a solid year. He did well too. Sherrod Range. You had all these guys afterwards, but Joe told us about that next year, and he said, I want to explain something to you. As much as I love winning last year, he said, I love winning it, but I'm even going to miss these guys. I'm going to hate it even more that we don't have this team. Oh, it's kind of tough. He had to let us know right away, jokers, you ain't going to match it. There is no way you're going to match it because you can't go by the label anymore. Like we would see Illinois versus Minnesota, and it's easy to look at the label. We forget all about.
Yeah, exactly.
What's his name? Brent. The coach for Illinois. You know, or all the other folks that are there. Even the coaches don't even matter. Like Stanford. Stanford's terrible. How'd they get so terrible? And they got an outstanding coach.
Yeah.
And they can beat, and yet they beat Notre Dame. All of a sudden, Notre Dame is happy to win a football game. Are you serious?
Yeah, exactly. Look at LSU. I mean, look at and some of the coaches. Oh man, well, we text back and forth about some of that stuff.
And as Coach Franklin said, I forgot. There's already offensive coordinators and people being fired, and there was one team that hired a new special teams coach, and they hire him, and guess what? His first game as a new special teams coach, they return a punt on him and get a punt blocked in his first game.
Oof. Yeah, but people are so quick today to want to discard. It's like I said, you got to make a commitment and you got to live through it. And I'm not talking about a marriage where it's for better or for worse, okay? Because again,
right,
the colleges and schools, universities,
yeah,
they've allowed this to become to what it is because it's all about the money, and their insatiable quest for greenback.
What a word! Oh my gosh. I'm teasing you, but that's what it is. With money,
yeah.
Give me more. Give me drugs. Give me everything else.
They are high on cocaine and whatever type of drug that keeps them going. That's what they're all about, man. And when that happens, the ends start. Those standards are gone from what the schools used to stand for and what they're supposed to be about. And the problem because of education be so easily accessible to people because again schools lower their academic standards because they don't want to have any child left behind and everybody needs an IEP because Johnny couldn't get whatever he needed to be in an ACT or SAT or whatever and he needs to have special care and special programs.
Well, that's another show, Skip, because
I get it. I know. I don't
agree with you because here's the thing. As long as we're not, and this is one of the things that colleges are doing with the mess they're doing now, the equity is the worst part because there's no way, because people love the insatiable appetite of money, there's no way anybody can be on the same page. If like you said, we're not going to have the same resources, and we talk about with that football. Wisconsin, you can't begin to talk about national champion, and Wisconsin ends up losing. Everybody thinks that Wisconsin, because you got a new coach that was 10 years in the league, Leonard, who's apparently, like I said, they picked him with no experience, and he's the one that said it. So nobody wants to talk about all these other things, and Leonard apparently is a good coach. But why did it have to be him? There's a whole lot of other people that are there. With Diaz, because Diaz is a top guy around in defense. He's number 5th in the nation. He can't have a bad game. I mean, come on.
Well, I don't blame him either. I mean, these are people that, and they're all they are is just a figurehead for trying to motivate people to perform.
That's right. No, that's exactly right.
That's all it is.
8:59.
Okay. Let's go through last week real quick. I'll tell you what we missed. I'll go through the misses. We missed Minnesota, Illinois. We got Maryland, Indiana. We missed Wisconsin and Michigan State, who figured. We had Purdue over in Nebraska, and we got that right. And of course, you guys got Penn State, got that right. So totals, I'm just one up on you guys. And here we are again this season. You guys are 43-16. I'm 44-15. It's just we're not picking well. On to this week real quick. Here we got Northwestern at Maryland. I got Maryland with this one.
Yeah, let's roll with it. I got it. We'll take Maryland. Spell it out.
And then we got Purdue at Wisconsin. I got Purdue.
I'm going to take Wisconsin at home.
Really? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I see that. And then Indiana at Rutgers.
Oh, my gosh. Rutgers is so bad this year. They got to win at least one. I got to go with Rutgers.
I did too. Yep. This one's no brainer. Iowa at Ohio State. Ohio State, easy. I know.
Right, right.
And of course, then we're left at Penn State or Minnesota at Penn State. And H will be proud of me. I'm picking Penn State to 35 and Minnesota 31.
Mm. And I'm going to pick it 20. I want to say 28 to 24, Penn State.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great game. Two teams fight it out.
And I think that's, and again, I think Penn State has that game put away, and Michigan scores that last touchdown and make the score look respectable. Penn State will be in control of that game.
I certainly hope so. I'll be on the sidelines there, and I'll be letting H know that in person that I am loyal to the cause, even though sometimes I'm trying to keep it real here.
Right, and let me tell you something. You have to keep it real when you get into a situation in 4 plays where you give up. And this is why I realized he was going to have to go early, because it was too much for him to talk about. When we started talking about gaps, I heard him go, he cleared his throat on the gaps. And a 69-yard run, and then 4 plays later, a 61-yard run by 2 different backs. We have to keep it real. That defense, something else has got to happen. Now, do you not blitz as much? Or like you said before, do you take your chances? I mean, I don't know. I mean, the one instructional video talked about when the other team pulls and they do a backside counter. You do a counter, you're creating new gaps. If people don't move over with the gaps, dash.
Yep.
And that's what you have. But when you have 2 backs that can carry the ball 42 times, I mean, and you only got so many passes that we say, gosh, I forgot what it was we said, but he didn't have, McCarthy didn't have to do anything.
No, it was easy.
He had to do nothing.
Yeah, I was watching this game and I thought to myself, why does Michigan even try to pass the ball at all? They don't have to.
Exactly. That's exactly what.
That's what caught me off guard. I was texting a few people. I said, "Yeah, Michigan, they don't even have to pass the ball. They just if they can keep running the ball. I mean, we are not filling those gaps. But I get it. Hey man, I hope it's a week where it gets turned around. I think, and my concern is what happened last week. The other teams that we will play will watch that. My greatest concern on our offense is when they have people spying on our quarterback.
Right.
That's where he cannot freeze. He needs to make a decision and go with it and not get burned.
Right. Yeah, because let me tell you something. Michigan does. I'll finish with that. Michigan, you got Harbaugh, and I think, one of the things, if I may share, partly what Jimmy said was he really felt as though Michigan is playing for their leader. And I agree.
Well, that says a lot about the leadership and coach at the school, and when a coach will get the players to be able to step up to do that. We need to see that happen here.
Right. And let me tell you something. That's one thing that hasn't transcended time, and I, like I said, without calling certain folks out, I don't like what some of the people are saying. I mean, about not just about Coach Franklin, but everybody thinks one thing about, here's what Joe said. Joe said, let me tell you why you don't pay attention to the media, and you don't pay attention to students, and you don't pay attention to the fans. He said, you want to know why? He said, because in all those people, everybody thinks they have the answer. He said, can you imagine going up to 200,000 people who think they have the answer? You're not going to get it from them. So come up with the answer on your own. I'll never get that.
I remember in the squad meetings, you'd be like, I don't want you guys talking to that Phil Gross. Keep away from him.
That's right. That's right. And look, it's one, but let me tell you something. I have more respect for Phil Gross than I did some of these guys on this blue and white stuff.
He does a good job. He's a class act. He does fine work.
Yeah,
if he was starting out, Joe was worried about him, is what he was.
Yeah, well, he was worried about what he knew, because Phil was goofy. You know what I mean? Yeah. He didn't really know the politics like T. Frank and all the rest of them. but because And you know what, Skip? I think I might join for $1. They said it's $1. You know what? They charge people now to join these podcasts, I guess, for resources. I was going to ask you
Oh,
what you
that's right.
think. But
Wow. Well,
yeah. So if you want like a membership or something, or
no.
you want to get access to something, then they charge. Which, to tell you the truth, if you think about it, again, it just, to me, it opens up another door for something else.
We've never been about the money and doing what we do. We love the program. We love our teammates. We love what it's about. That's why it's never been about the money. We've had other guys who've gone different directions that's about a business, and it's never been the only business we've been concerned about is the business of Penn State football.
That's right, and the wellness of the players.
Yes,
and
present, past, and future.
That's right. That's right. And we start talking about wellness, and Skip, all of us, I mean, when we go out and we do certain things, like Joe said, it's nice when people treat you nice because they think you did something good. He said, that's the part, and that's what Joe used to say. You don't go out there like some of these knuckleheads, they go out there and they think they're better than people. You think because you were on a team, when you did this, that you should get treated right. He said, now, when you're minding your own business and somebody says, Coach, come skip the line, and you go past 50 people, then I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's absolutely right, though. But I want these young men, and I just want to say this, like I said, I want these young men not just to have their head up, they have to know what Penn State football means. I think, and here's the thing, there's only been, people don't understand this, there's been 3 coaches since 1966. You have no idea what you're talking about when you say the coach isn't doing what they're supposed to do. That we all knew it. People got on Joe, and they say, Joe, what's going on with this new offense? Joe, what's going on with this new quarterback? And people said the same thing about Schaefer, and the same thing came between Schaefer and Kisner. And at one time, it was Schaefer and Kisner and Timmy Parker, who left the program to transfer back, and then leave again. And guess what?
Wow.
He left again playing fullback. Timmy was a really good fullback. But guess what ended up happening? I remember him getting thrown out of practice. And that's the last, because Timmy missed the audible. Whatever happened, he missed the audible. And that's when the quarterbacks got hit in practice. On certain periods. People don't know that period of football. And I think that's
yeah. If you and I went back, we haven't been back together to a practice. When I went back and I look at these practices, and I'm like, it doesn't remind me of football anymore, man. It's just like this 2-hand touch, push, shove, make it look good. I mean, it's not the football that we knew, and I think there's an overabundance of caution. It's a physical sport. It's a vicious game. It's a brutal sport. It's a gladiator sport. And if you try to take that out of it, it's no longer football. And we've talked about that before.
Yeah. And that's what I'm like I said, we also know, and it's not just college football, it's football altogether. You saw what happened, and I think that was the right thing to do. For example, there's no more Pro Bowl. It doesn't need to be. If you can't tackle anybody, what are you having a football game for?
Well, I love the Pro Bowl. As a kid growing up, I loved to get to see all the best players play the game.
That's the way they took it. That's the way. In fact, you know what Deacon Jones said? He said in the first Pro Bowl he was ever in, or first All-Star game, whatever they called it then, he said he had to pay a $500 fine because he wore white cleats. That's how serious they were about that stuff.
Yeah, they pride. Yeah, it's
there was money involved.
Now, see, now they could make that again. They could restore that game to what it's meant to be, like in baseball. They could do that, but the problem facing it is it's always about the money. And
here's what I think. I think you can do it almost like you do those rookie games. To me, some of those rookie games and some of those sophomore games, or you have the rookies and free agents play against the college all-stars like they used to.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah,
You know,
those games meant something too. No, now, and I don't think we're going to see a lot of this anymore either. You remember the college All-Star games? They're more of
right,
a they're more of a tryout now than they are anything else. And
right, and that's all they are. And you don't really get to see. I mean, the good news about pass protection and other stuff, you can do a lot of that without pads on. But with pads on, people are that's the thing that you miss. I mean, we went at it, man. You know, between the bags and between all the other things, and you know,
the
everything
physicality, the
is good.
phys-
Yeah, the physicality has got to be there.
yeah, it's not. And I think the sport's suffering for it. And they got to get rid. They got to do something about this. Um, this targeting rule stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
This is it's gone too far.
Yeah,
Um, it's I don't care if if they stop it to replay it to see if a guy intentionally did something. That's fine, 15-yard penalty, whatever. But they got to stop taking these guys out of the game. It's a natural reflex if you're running with the football, the running back, to kind of put your head down because you're bracing for an impact. All right.
right, right.
The
And sometimes
natural
really
physical,
tell.
even on for the defensive guy, it's a natural thing to try to want to prepare your body for an impact. It's an impact sport. You
Mhm.
can't, you can't, you can only coach so much. You got to let the guys play the game. Unfortunately, people get hurt. It's part of the game, and you can't take you can't take it out of the game. It's no longer football. I mean, you just want to play two-hand touch or flag football, and in the moment they start playing flag football, they're going to start worried about still going to get worried about collisions because people are getting touched and bumped. I mean,
Mhm.
how far do you want to go with this thing? You have guys wearing bubble wrap. I mean,
Yeah.
it's,
Well, but and here's the thing. On the other hand, they do have to protect the players. My thing is,
sure.
when you start talking about these officials, you better start paying these officials a lot more money to decide. Because a lot of times you're deciding on somebody's life by not doing that. And all of a sudden, that's why when you look at who Ed Hockley is, he's one of my definitely, I never paid attention to a lot of those officials. But Ed Hockley, when he blew a call that cost somebody a game, he's the one that said, I own it. I own it. It was me. It wasn't anybody else. My hero. Yeah.
A man's man for sure.
Right. No,
Yeah.
for sure. And that there's a lot of things with that. But anyway, like I said, I think we've had a good show. It was a different type of show, but I hope
Yeah.
we did okay. And
I think
I
it's
think,
great. I love you guys, and it's always a lot of fun, and there's so much more we could talk about. And
yeah,
kind of like how did Mr. Rogers sign it? And we'll have more things to talk about. How
yeah.
to close this show. We will too. So we'll
Go,
do it again.
go, Speed Racer, go.
What's that?
I said, go, Speed Racer, go.
Oh yes, that's right. Scooby Dooby Doo.
He's
Yeah,
up and flying as he guns the car around the track.
yeah, yeah. I mean, those great programs. They why don't they play that stuff for kids anymore? We have a show on that alone. Just
Because people they skip one reason. Speed Racer, there was a lot of deaths on Speed Racer.
yeah,
But
yeah,
they had the acrobatic team, and you had Snake Oiler,
yeah.
and yeah, and then I never paid attention to what was his name? His name was Skull. I never paid attention. His last name, I thought it was Duggery. It was Dudgery. His name was Skull Dudgery. He got inside people's head. I didn't understand it then. I was like, wow, that's why they call him Skull Dudgery. Oh,
Yeah, you see it.
Did you get that?
Yeah, no, I didn't. But I keep thinking back to like Fat Albert. I loved those shows, man. Fat Albert.
Yeah.
Hong Kong Fooey and
Absolutely.
Great Babe. Remember Great Babe? You
Oh
right
my
around.
God.
Oh man, that was just great.
Grape 8 kicked the field goal, and it was good. I don't know if you saw that. He won a game for somebody.
Yeah,
The
remember
ball,
that? Yeah, the ball
the
took
ball
off.
came down in a parachute and just made it over the goalpost.
That stuff just. Hopefully, it's still out there somewhere. Somebody has
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
But
There's
they,
nothing wrong with old school for sure.
no, but see again, we grew up understanding the reality of what's on television isn't real, and
Gotcha.
it's it's just we got problems with education, buddy, from kindergarten up. We got to fix.
Agree.
Yep.
There's where we agree, and there's no one simple solution. And speaking of education, I got to get back to the one I'm fighting for.
All right, buddy. We get to it, brother. I love you, man. Look forward to catching you here next week. Thanks for
I
joining us.
love you too, man.
And on behalf of the H, we trust that I've redeemed his confidence and that he'll want to join us again next week.
I didn't know he was so funny. I had no idea he was so funny. But
He's got a great sense of humor. I appreciate it.
For starting that show off. And you know, he has this what is it called? This improvisation that is it's hard to catch when it's going to come out. I don't know how to explain it, but I don't remember that about him. Pretty brilliant too.
Yeah, he's great at that. All right. Well, on behalf of H and Dr. Big Dude, the one and only Stephanie, my name's Skip Reynolds. Thank you all for joining us here at Lions Live. We can't wait to come back next week, talk about a Penn State win. So let's go trust, and we'll be positive and trust in our.
Amen.
All right, brother. Take care.
Let's go State. Let's go O-line.
All right. Take care. Yeah, see you. Take care. Have a good night. Bye-bye.